So in this first video, I'm going to get us set up in Adobe XD and then also take a little bit of a look at Artboards. So when you open up Adobe XD, much like most other Adobe products, we kind of have our templates that we can choose from and your recent things. Now, obviously, you've not used Adobe XD before, so there's not going to be anything in here. We are going to start a new file, and you can go ahead and pick any of the web templates. Something like Illustrator, Adobe XD is going to be the type of program where you're going to have multiple artboards within a single project. So at the beginning, it's not actually going to matter too much if you pick the quote-unquote wrong size artboard for what you want to make. But since our first project is going to be making an animated homepage, might as well pick one of the web sizes. And as you can see, when you click on it, there's kind of various templates for traditional sizes. 1920 by 1080 is a good one to start off with. It's the standard size for a high definition screen. So it's not necessarily future proof, but it's a good shout that most screens, this would fill the screen when you design it. You can obviously go ahead and pick a smaller one if you'd like as well, and that kind of makes for backwards compatibility. But for the process of the first project, it's not really going to matter what size you pick as long as you stick with that size for your project. So gone ahead and clicked on that, and then it's going to pop us into the main mode. Now, Adobe XD looks different than most of the other Adobe applications that you might be used to. So I want to go over just some of the basics and make sure that we're feeling comfortable with the artboard as our space that we're going to be working in. Now, some commands are the same. So Command plus and Command minus will zoom us in and out. You can also go ahead and use the view to zoom in, zoom out, and zoom to fit all. Command 0 is one of my favorite things. So you'll notice that it has your artboard and it automatically names it the size that you've picked. So in this case, it's web 1920, and this is the first artboard, so it has -1. You can double click on the artboard to name this. So in your case, we're going to be making an animation where you're going to be kind of picking various states. We talked about in animation, you have kind of keyframes. So we're going to pick the spots that we want our animation to change between, and we're going to have those starting and end points. They're going to be our artboards. So I can call this start, for example. And if I hit enter, you'll notice now it's changed the name to that. Artboards in Adobe XD are pretty easy to work with, which is wonderful. I would suggest not making the artboard smaller than it originally is on either the top or bottom, mostly because this size is set to be what we call the viewport of a screen. So that is basically what is visible on screen at any given time. What you can do, however, which is very handy, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can see a little bit further. What you can do, and this will be more useful for us in our projects going forward, is you can make them bigger. Now, for this project, you're probably going to stick with the size that you can see full screen, and then we're going to make duplicates of it. I'm going to just open up my example that I showed you guys, and in it, we'll see that for my artboards, I have many of the exact same size artboards. But when we go forward, you're going to have content that is scrollable content, right? It's not going to just fit on the screen, but you need to scroll down. By pulling this down to be larger in our vertical direction, it still shows us this is basically what's visible on screen without scrolling, and this would be your scrolling content. So that's a really handy feature in Adobe XD that kind of tells us what's on screen and what isn't on screen at any given moment for our set size. Now, down the left-hand side, we do have our tools. That's pretty standard for Adobe. But we have far fewer tools than you might expect, given that this is a program that has a lot of complexity to it. Like something like Illustrator, what you're going to be doing is working back and forth between properties on the right and tools on the left. And then our top bar is more for telling us which mode we're in. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but for right now, we're going to be working in the design mode first and foremost. Now we've got our selecting tool, our moving tool, We can draw rectangles, circles, polygons, we can draw lines and pens. So as you can kind of see from this, it thinks very vector based. And by default, so again, very much like Illustrator. We've got our text. This guy here is our artboard tool. So one of the things that is, again, kind of a little bit more unique to XD is how we can mix different artboards together. So I'm going to click on the artboard tool. So if I want multiple artboards, I can just go down here, and on the right hand side in our properties, I can select what other kind of artboards I want. So I have started with my web 1920, so I can go ahead and click that, and every time I click it, it's going to make a new one. And as you can see, the name is the name of what I've clicked on, and 1, 2, 3. Now, in this case, we're going to be making an animation that shows up on screen. And then you're going to click and it's going to go to like the next state and it's going to automatically animate it. But when we get to our final, we're going to be making what we'd consider more of a traditional website. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is to mock up the homepage for either a phone or a tablet as well to get a sense of how that's different. The nice thing about Adobe XD is that we can mix different sizes of artboards all in the same document. So if I wanted to then, I've got an iPhone 10, if I wanted to see what it would look like on my screen of my phone, I can go ahead and click that and it's going to show me an iPhone screen. And again, I can do that here. I could pick a tablet if I wanted an iPad Pro. And as you can see, all of these will live in the same area. Now I can go ahead and click my move tool, and I'm just gonna zoom back in a little bit because I want to grab that artboard, and I can just click on the name and I can move the artboard. So if I wanted like one row with my web stuff, and then I wanted a row that had my iPhone, and I can grab this guy too. And you can hold down the shift key, and again, if you're clicking on the names, it's going to select more than one, and I can go ahead and I can move both of these so I can more quickly move them. This is also starting to give you a sense of the fact how much of a size difference there really is between say a traditional laptop screen and a phone screen, and then a tablet. You can kind of get a sense here of the dimensions. So I can go ahead and add those guys in. I'm going to zoom back in so you can see I got my iPad Pro, and I can also just click on them and hit delete and they'll go away. One last thing I want to show you about artboards, which is going to make your life a lot easier in this animation. I'm going to go ahead and delete out these extra ones for the web. Is that we can very easily copy the exact artboard we're working on, make a duplicate of it. Now, when we're working with keyframes, obviously we're changing the states of the same objects. And so you want to make sure you've got the exact same objects in both artboards. So to make that easy, all we're going to do is we're going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key on a PC, click on that name and drag. And you notice that it says Start-1, so it's telling me it's a copy. And it'll be an exact duplicate of everything that's on here. Now my artboard's empty, so that's a little bit hard to see how that might work. So I'm going to go ahead and change back to my demo that I was showing you guys earlier. So this is the animation that I made for kind of to show you guys how it works, where I click on it and I do this and it'll fade in. So in this case, I needed to fade in my faces. So I have my faces here. If I click on it, just so you can see that face is there. And I needed to make an exact copy of this so that I could make sure that I then faded them in. So I'm going to click on Facebooky Start. I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key. I'm going to drag it over here. And you can see it's exactly the same as it is here. I have all the same elements. Make this guy 100% again. You can see I've got all the same elements here. So it's really easy using that Option drag to duplicate your artboards. So what you'll probably be doing a lot of over the course of this animation is setting things up in your first artboard, then dragging a new copy. You'll want to rename it, and you'll notice like when my Facebooky demo, I've gone ahead and I've gone slide 1, text 2, slide 2, so I know what I'm doing. So you rename them, slide 1 maybe, and then you can make your changes. And that's going to make your life a lot easier as we go along. In the next video, I'm going to show you about saving, because that's a little different in XD as well.